Okay, we're going to move on now to our next guest speaker. They're going to be joining us by Zoom. Um, the guest speaker that's going to be joining us is from I'll pronounce this correctly, the Eryri National Park?
Eryri.
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 Eryri, thank you. The Eryri National Park. His name is Alec. He's the carbon officer for the National Park Authority. And he led the plastic-free. I wonder if I could ask the pronunciation. Eryri?
Yeah.
Thank you. The Eryri project in 2022 to 2024. The pilot project runs a successful sustainability scheme for businesses, a series of innovative communications campaigns, improved refill infrastructure in the area, and trial behaviour challenge experiments in partnership with Bangor University. The project continues to engage with the public at wide and aims to achieve plastic-free status for Wales's highest mountain in the future. So, hi, thank you for joining us, Alec. But feel free to start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you for organising such a fantastic event. I'm just going to try and share my screen if I can.
Can you see?
Are you able to see my screen now?
I think we can see you.
Second. Sorry, can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see you. We just can't see the screen.
Yeah, I'm having some trouble sharing my screen here. I'll just try one more time.
No, it doesn't.
Okay, I might have to do this without sharing my screen and try and make it as colourfully visual as possible in my language. Sorry about that.
Don't worry at all. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, thank you so much, Greg, for inviting me to speak today. Really sorry I can't be there in person. I'm actually dialing in from Athens. I've travelled over here by boat and train, and as a bit of a non sequitur, I couldn't encourage people or recommend traveling slow enough. Obviously there's a kind of significant carbon reduction we've managed to make through my holiday, and it's an amazing way to travel. So just before I get started, I just wanted to say that. I'd just like to give a really small amount of context as to why it is that I ended up joining the Eryri National Park Authority and why I'm so personally invested as well as professionally invested in the project. I grew up in North Wales, about 15 miles as the crow flies from Yr, and on a clear day, you could see the steam coming off the Snowdon Mountain Railway train. I left North Wales at the age of 18. I swore never to come back. And after completing my degree, I went on to get a job in branded merchandise. So I was essentially selling branded products to big blue chip companies, shipping them around the world. Needless to say, I became quite disillusioned with the job, mostly because of the environmental impact my work was having, not just the volume of products that we were shipping around the world, also the quality and the material that those products were made out of. Unfortunately, a lot of them were plastic. I ended up leaving in 2017 and I went on a bit of an odyssey to try and reset my career. I actually cycled from Anchorage in Alaska down to Ushuaia in Patagonia. And I would say over the course of those 19 months of traveling and traveling at around 11 miles an hour on average, you end up seeing a lot of things that you wouldn't usually see in your day-to-day life, or you'd notice more of for sure. And the thing that really stood out to me, I was really shocked by the amount of plastic trash that I saw on the road verges, that I saw in the streets. In fact, it was everywhere. And by the time I got to kind of the halfway point of my journey in Colombia, I ended up taking a job in a secondary school to teach English. And as I was so shocked by what I'd seen, I decided to work with some of those English pupils on a project we called Trash Talk to try and inspire a bit of change through the power of music, the change that we wanted to see. Fast forward to 2019, I've completed my travels, I've come back home, and unfortunately, I've kind of slipped back in to the industry, into the job that I had before leaving. So the career reset didn't quite work. I had some debts to pay off, but galvanized by what I'd experienced and what I'd seen, I decided I wanted to try and drive some change from within the organization. And so when I was put in charge of one of the bigger companies in the account, one of the bigger organizations and accounts in the company, I set up a sustainability index so that we could kind of track the products that we were buying. We could buy more consciously and reduce our footprint. Of course, this didn't actually feel like enough, and I didn't last very long, and I parted ways with the company in 2022, at which point I moved back to North Wales, having said I'd never come back. And I saw a job advertised with the National Park Authority that really caught my eye. It was this really exciting pilot working for the National Park Authority, trying to make Eryri, Wales's highest mountain, the the first mountain to go for a plastic-free status. And it wasn't any mountain, of course. It was Eryri, the mountain that I grew up marveling at from our garden as a kid. As I was researching the job, I found out a number of different things that with that, not only is it Wales's highest mountain, it also gets a huge amount of media attention, and it's actually Wales's busiest tourist attraction. 600,000 walkers try and make their way to the summit every year, another 120,000 on the train, and they leave a significant footprint on the landscape. Um, uh, I mean, we're talking tons and tons of litter, and of the most often found items of litter, plastic items feature very heavily. So given that there was this perennial problem of littering on a river, the National Park Authority decided to do something about this. They wanted to see what the actual impact on the ground was. So in 2021, working with a company called CGG, a French geotech company, they conducted a microplastics pollution survey. And we found that up to 5% of the soil content was microplastics in the most heavily trafficked areas, areas such as the summit and the railway bridge. Even more soberingly, they found microplastics in every single one of the 27 samples taken on the way up to the summit. So, guided by a scoping study that was conducted with a company called Share Impact Limited, the Eryri National Park decided that they could draw on behavioral science and aim for this kind of plastic-free status, galvanize local communities behind a project, and really kind of take advantage of this groundswell of kind of anti-plastic or anti-litter campaigning that's going along happening across the country. We set out our principles for the project, and then one of my first jobs once I was appointed was to define a plastic-free zone. So not only were we looking to encompass the mountain itself, but maybe include gateway towns around the mountain, so that we could include communities, schools, and businesses, and get them behind this exciting project as well. We have an amazing volunteering force between a couple of organizations, actually. We have our volunteer wardens, but there's also a project called Carry Eryri, Love Eryri, and they are out 3-4 times a week during the summer season and the spring, and actually going into the autumn as well. And they work tirelessly to keep the mountain clean, as well as keeping visitors safe. But we really realized that we can't depend on them long term. Um, to achieve this ambitious goal of obtaining a plastic-free status, we realized that we needed to lean on support from other organizations and experts as well. Um, we've been working with Bangor University for several years now, and in particular, Professor John Parkinson, who leads the School of Behavioral Change there, working with him and his master students to deliver research on people's motivation for littering. It's been really, really invaluable working with Bangor University because they've introduced us to a number of theories, working models, things like the broken windows theory, normative influence, i.e., the social phenomenon where individuals conform to group norms and behaviors to gain approval. We also learned through John Parkinson about inattentional blindness and how actually putting up more signs isn't necessarily the solution. One of the principal things we've been looking at actually is something called the COM-B model, which looks at capability, opportunity, and motivation as the key drivers of behavior. And by framing the way we approach the issue of litter through this model, we've been able to target specific interventions. Putting this into practice, we actually conducted a couple of experiments, both in 2023 and 2024, where we used the master students from the School of Behavioral Change to draft a script using motivational interviewing techniques and to deliver that script to speak directly face to face with walkers on their way up the mountain about some of their intentions for the day using open-ended questions and getting a bit of an insight into people's motivations for and their preparedness for the day. It was a really, really interesting experiment. We got an incredibly good response to it. And most importantly, actually, we saw some real results on the ground. So on the days where the students were present at the trailheads, speaking to walkers, we saw a 60% reduction in the number of litter items on the trail. We also received 149 pledges from walkers that they wouldn't litter on that day, that they called them plastic-free pledges. And we also saw people who had spoken to the students posting about it online and being very willing to tell us about how they were inspired by the talks that they'd had and how they'd gone on subsequently in the holiday to pick up litter in different locations as well. We've also used this COM-B model when we've approached um, our, our other pilot projects. One of the kind of pilot projects that I focused on in 23 and 24 was actually a number of measured bin experiments where we'd remove bins from specific sites, starting with low risk ones and replacing those bins with large signs. So drawing on evolutionary psychology, we put up signs in the shape of a bin with owl eyes on them. There's some theory behind behavior change and how people, if they feel that they're being surveilled by, for example, an image of animal eyes, tend to behave differently as to if it wasn't there. We made these signs interactive, so they've kind of added an element of gamification where people could get more information about what was going on. The results were mixed, and actually we've extended this pilot out not just to low-risk car parks, but we've gone to a kind of higher risk zone as well, and we're still measuring the impacts of removing that bin. The idea here is obviously to prevent bins from overfilling and rubbish blowing over the mountainside, which we found that 76% of people do take responsibility for their litter, according to the research done by Bangor University and their students. However, there's a kind of inadvertence sometimes, or people trying to do the right thing sometimes by putting stuff in the bin, but not paying enough attention, and that litter ends up in far flung places that are more difficult to reach by our volunteer force. We've also been working with Dr. Christian Dunn at Bangor University, who's a microplastics expert, and one of his undergrad students has been conducting microplastics research in one of the lakes on Adwyddfa. We're waiting to see how microplastic content changes according to visitor seasonality, according to how busy the mountain is at any given time of the year. So we're looking forward to hearing the results of that. Emulating the success of the Surfers Against Sewage plastic-free business scheme, we decided to create our own kind of plastic-free mountain business scheme using quite a localized criteria, but drawing on and actually including existing schemes such as Surfers Against Sewage, Keep Wales Tidy, and Refill Wales. For example, you score extra points not only for being part of our business scheme, but also registering through the Surfers Against Sewage scheme, or for example, registering through Refill Wales as a refill location as well. This particular element of the project has been incredibly successful. We have over 43 businesses taking part in the scheme. 3 of them are up to a gold standard. We have 29 at a silver standard, 9 at bronze, and then we have a couple who haven't quite managed to make it to the threshold for getting an award there. We started off looking at the hospitality sector for this scheme, but now we've actually expanded it out with a criteria for outdoor businesses, i.e., people who might be running events, mountain leaders, for example, and tour guides. As we're kind of hoping to lead by example on this as well, we've audited our own business operations. We own 5 very business information centres which trade in honeypot areas around the park. So in December 2022, a couple of months after I started, we actually audited 1,500 lines of stock, and we're targeting a 50% decrease in the amount of single-use plastic in our stores. It's a shame that I can't show you the pictures for this one, but the scope of this project extended beyond plastic free. We decided to go for the plastic free mantle because it's so it's so salient. But we were also looking to target organic waste as well. We see quite a problem with people leaving fruit peels on the mountain, in particular banana peels in certain spots. So inspired by a local mountain leader called Mike Rain, who has been conducting organic informal experiments in the mountains and watching how they biodegrade over time for some years now, we created something we dubbed the banana cam. So we set up a bespoke built cage with a solar powered camera on the summit of Adwyddfa, and over the course of 402 days, we watched in real time a banana peel biodegrade. And so we had our own portal for this. We got quite a bit of media attention. People saw it as kind of quite a fun, whimsical thing to engage with. And we took bets from the public on how long it would take. It's often one of the things that I still get asked about now, even having changed roles. And people are always very curious to see what fate that banana peel ended up having. Comms was a big part of the work that we did as well. So we decided to try and create a couple of campaigns that would really kind of inspire the public. We drawing on the kind of the big success of Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, both of which have been filmed in Eryri, in fact. We decided to create a kind of mythical campaign based around the Mabinogion, which is the oldest written prose in Britain. It's our local folklore tales. And so we decided to create these trash meets legends series of images, videos, and even a song that was composed by a local composer, showing the kind of juxtaposition between these amazing mythical characters who were photographed in some of the hotspot locations for trash, having to deal with the impact of litter in those areas. So we had King Arthur, for example, putting his sword through a can of a tub of Pringles. We had Blodeuwedd, who's another famous character, fishing a bottle of Lucozade out of the Watkin Pools, which is one of the famous wild swimming spots in the area as well. We wanted to equip visitors with the kind of the right tools to be able to make the right decisions as well. So we've improved water refill infrastructure around the park, and we now have refill points in each one of our car parks -1, and that's because of a supply issue. And we have supplied interactive maps showing where all of these points are, and we've also now incorporated into our business scheme extra scoring points and business locations on our maps so that people can refill in the gateway towns as well. We also created an infographic informing people about how they could pack for their plastic-free adventure, with a number of kind of alternative options to things like cling film, and how they can refill, and what kind of clothes they might be able to buy as an alternative to synthetic items that obviously leave plastic fibers on the mountain. So another big part of the work that I've been doing has been working with local schools, inspired by the kind of series of COP events, the climate events that happen around the world. We decided to create our own youth summit, climate summit, and the Welsh word for summit is COPA. So of course we called it COPA 1. The first in this series has been around single-use plastics, and we set local kids the challenge of coming up with the big ideas to solve the single-use pollution crisis on the mountain. And we managed to raise some money from the National Lottery, from Bangor University, and working together with Bangor University and Keep Wales Tidy, we ran a competition awarding development grants for kids who had winning ideas. Now, this was kind of set up in a kind of Dragon's Den style competition. So the kids, of which there were over 200 that submitted ideas, a shortlist was selected to come and sell those ideas, pitch those ideas to a panel of experts on the mountain itself. So this was the first environmental summit honored with that. And then the kids were taken up for the purpose of that kind of nature connection, to really understand the mountain that they're seeking to protect. They were taken up on the train to celebrate their success as well. And now I'm pleased to say that the 3 winning ideas have all been implemented. We have a 3D printed belt clip, which are going to be able to be bought from our stores from next year onwards. We also have a fantastic piece of art showcasing the kind of the contradiction between the human impact of litter and the natural beauty of Rhydderch, which is currently being shown in one of the most popular car parks. And we also have a competition that's being run on the mountain, where people get to weigh their litter collections in exchange for raffle tickets to win prizes. There was a video I was hoping to show, but unfortunately, without the screen, I can't do that. On this Copper 1 Environmental Summit happened on the 24th of September. On the preceding weekend, we had actually a couple of events that were happening, including a very exciting pioneering project that we partnered with the British Mountaineering Council on. and a company called a charity called Plant Life Cymru and Trash Free Trails. We partnered with them on this kind of pioneering pilot to abseil down one of the most littered places on the mountain and make their way down the gully so that we could remove the litter, the trash that was collecting in these hard to reach areas, and to protect the Arctic alpine rare species that have been growing there. We collected over 2,765 items of single-use pollution. They were brought down, surveyed, counted by Trash Free Trails using their methodology. And because this was such a kind of dramatic event that lent itself so much to kind of cinema, and because we had this Copper One event happening a couple of days afterwards, we decided as a National Park Authority to really take advantage of this weekend of bustling activity and to document it in a 15-minute film. So I'm pleased to say that Plastic Peak has been entered now into a few outdoors festivals, environmental film festivals as well. Is going to be available to stream next year, hopefully. I saw that Bournemouth University also feature films. I'm hopefully maybe I can convince the people there to screen it there as well. And it's going to be used in as education tool to inspire visitors to make the right choices, to look after the mountain, but also to showcase some of the fantastic work that's happening in our local communities. So the project officially came to an end in October 2024, but our work here is far from done. We've got a serious case of shifting baselines. When I started in the role, we'd only recorded 500 kilograms a year of litter being collected on the mountain. We've improved our data recording techniques now, and we now have all the organizations picking litter on the mountain, feeding into the same data set. So last year, we collected over 1.6 tons. We are seeing a downward trend when we're comparing like for like from the two organizations, from the organization that has been collecting year on year. However, there's so much work to be done. And fortunately, it has been agreed by the authority to carry on some of that work. We're going to carry on working with Professor John Parkinson, who has now actually been appointed as a voluntary behavioral science advisor for us. So he's going to be working with us, conducting more interventions on the mountain, conducting more research. We're also going to continue with our bin removal pilots. We are continuing our plastic-free business scheme. And we're going to roll out some of these schemes beyond Adwidva to the rest of the park. I did a midterm impact report back in 2023, halfway through the life of the project, and a kind of wrap-up impact report will be released before the end of this year. We're just waiting on some of the visitor stats and data to be able to release that. We have literally got a mountain to climb on this. Unfortunately, it's far from perfect. There's lots of work still to be done. But Copper One, for example, is the kind of springboard we're hoping to really inspire the next generation through the kind of school system, but also through our Young Rangers scheme to get involved, to work with us as well as businesses, hopefully the agricultural sector in the future as well. But yeah, the work is not over. And although the kind of official term of the project is over, I'm continuing to assist a colleague of mine who's taken on some of the work to really kind of push for this plastic-free status, which we're hoping to achieve in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alec, for sharing that. And I'm really interested to hear that kind of diverse web of different micro projects that seem to be going on that are ultimately contributing to that wider agenda to, create the first plastic-free mountain. We've run out of time for the questions, Alec, but we really do appreciate you joining us today and sharing those insights with us. So a big thank you. So yeah, thank you ever so much.